All right. Hey, everyone. It's Monday, July 8th, 6:12. I'm going to go ahead and start our training committee, ad hoc committee meeting for the Commission on Police Practices. Just to share with you guys and everyone who will be watching, we're going to be having our first vice chair is going to be joining our committee, which will be great because we'll be able to have someone who's a representative on our committee that's also on the cabinet so they can help share guidance and feedback kind of real time rather than us having a meeting and then proposing stuff to the cabinet and then having them give us feedback and then making changes should hopefully make everything a little bit more effective. That being said, I had a Zoom call with the cabinet on Friday, and they did have a couple questions about training, and which is what I want to try to go over today. And I can share my screen in a second, but it's just high level. One of the things they shared with me is the thing they were first talking about was implicit bias training and the anti-discrimination piece. We at our last meeting had suggested and then recommended to the cabinet
this amethyst
utilizing
and sterling.
Muslim ARC, which is one of the several groups we looked at. And then I kind of told them what our thoughts were, and then their concern was just having one group with one perhaps focus. So they had suggested possibly using some other or adding other groups such as the ADL, ACLU, and a couple other groups. I did share with them that there was some pushback in the public meeting about ADL, but they weren't saying we had to use them. They were just saying we wanted to have more than just one focus. So that was one of the things we wanted to hopefully talk about today. The other thing that Gloria raised was we had several videos that we wanted the commissioners to watch kind of as pre-work. And she was concerned that, I'm going to pull it up so you can look at what we had. She was concerned that it was too much pre-work for videos. Let me share my screen and you guys can see what we had talked about. Oh,
I'm sorry. The videos that were mentioned as a independent study.
correct. Yes.
Huh. Interesting.
Let me pull that
Well,
up.
it's up to the person to like see as many videos as they want, correct? I'm not
Well,
sure.
I think
I
initially,
mean, yeah.
sorry, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's okay. I interrupt a lot. Go ahead.
So it was this chunk here was the, oops, I copied too much. It was this piece here.
Those things are already seasoned. I don't know.
I already saw all those videos. In
Right.
fact, I already saw like
Those are
yeah, the
already.
UCLA implicit bias is like 30 minutes total, and then that's like a real easy no-brainer, and it has like animation to it, like, and then the other one is how to listen for recognized breakdown. Include I don't know about that one. I have not seen that one. And the other optional ones that you guys put on there, PBS point of view, that one was like 10 minutes, and it
Yeah.
really showed like very simplistic view of, like examples, which were really cool examples. And I thought that was really well done. And I mean, I guess the implicit bias test is optional too. I mean, you don't have to take it. I mean, it could still be on the list for people as an option, as like a bibliography, like if you really want to do further blah blah blah, you could see this. You could put it there. We're all grown-ups. I guess we can pick and choose what we want to see.
Yeah, and I think her concern, which has merit, is just the
Okay.
fact that we're asking our volunteers to put in several hours just coming to our meetings, more hours to do possibly case review, and on this case, we're going to be having people come in on a Saturday. And she just felt like asking them to watch, perhaps, an hour of videos might be too much.
An hour. Well, like I said, they could pick and choose. They don't have
Yeah,
to see all the videos. And who is this? Who was the
that was
concern?
Chair Tran.
Chair Tran. Well, yeah, she always has a lot of concerns, and and again, it's the way you present it. I think that
Yeah.
we can present it to her in such a manner that this is optional. These are the videos that you can pick and choose, and some of them are very short. Some is an implicit test that is very standard, in the community of implicit bias. Um, Whatever people, and again, we all chose to be, we all chose to volunteer. And there's some people, and don't get this the wrong way, okay? Don't misinterpret me and what I'm going to say next. I've seen some folks that don't volunteer as much, especially in the small groups or subcommittees. I just feel like with the new people coming on board, that there will be more folks that will, you know, sign up for the subcommittees and small group reviews and et cetera, et cetera. I just feel like there are certain people that never, you know, they just come to the main meetings, you know. Maybe that's not a fair statement that I'm saying, but it's just my personal viewpoint. I might be wrong altogether, but anyway.
Yeah, and I think initially, I mean, my thought at least, and I thought this was the consensus of the group, but I mean, other people could have different thoughts too.
Yeah.
I thought the idea was the pre-work, those videos. I think we wanted everyone to watch all of them.
Oh, well,
I
no,
think
no.
it's
Yeah.
really only about at most an hour, and it is a very important topic, and that was kind of my thought. But I think what we can just do is say, you know, these are recommended, and it'll help
Correct.
people get ahead of the
Yeah.
game once we actually do have that. I think the other thing is, you know, their concern is they didn't want, you know, and I wish Dennis was here so he can kind of help share if I get a little off topic from what they've had in private conversations in just the cabinet. But I think the idea was they didn't want us to have just one focus on how, you know, biased policing perhaps, or, you know, just, I mean, discrimination type things, how they are presented. They wanted to kind of have a more, an inclusive, a much more broad view rather than just kind of, I think their concern is, you know, just the Muslim community. Which I mean, obviously it'll carry over from piece to piece, but I think that was part of what their concern was, is they wanted to make sure we were being as inclusive as possible, especially on this really, you know, important and vital topic.
Inclusive as far as Muslim, Latino, Black, Asian. Is that what you're
Exactly.
trying to say?
Yeah.
Well, you know, in some of those videos, I can see how it applies, because I saw the PBS one showed about gender bias also, which doesn't always get presented these days, you know. I saw, I mean, I don't know. There's so much material out there, and I agree there are some people that will probably not have the time to see, but you know, we're not asking them to read articles, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's another thing. Like I found an article recently about well, this isn't applied to bias, but it, you know, in a way it does. The body worn cameras on the New York Times. They have an excellent article about how they're not working very well, you know, as far as, you know, getting the right perspective, you know, or whatever, you know, that there's bias in that too. But we're not asking people to like go out of their way to read articles either, you know. It just all depends on the individual. And you're right. I mean, we can't force people to see all these videos. It's up to them to pick and choose. And I think if we present it in that way to Gloria, I think it might be more easily digestible. Maybe.
Dwayne, I think I heard you starting to say something. Do you want to chime in?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just was wondering if you're talking about using more orgs for that, I just don't want to just be duplicating the same information.
Yeah.
Just spitting out the same information, one group saying one thing, but it seems to me like all their perspectives is basically kind of the same. If you're talking about implicit bias, I don't know what one group's gonna be saying what different from another group. So I really just, unless they're all gonna be there the same day, I just wouldn't want to be having, or this, you know, the same time. I don't know if this is gonna be over a period of days or meetings or not, but I just don't want to just be duplication of information. And then everybody just having to sit in that. I think what a group has to say, I think we ourselves can look at it and see how it applies to other groups.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think, although we didn't specifically discuss it, I believe the intent was they would have multiple groups there at the same time. So we wouldn't do it
Like
over, because I agree. I think having, and especially I think that's where we're going to have people drop off, is if we have the same topic repeated by different groups. I don't think people are going to want to spend the time to go over the same educational topic. And I the other question I had is, you know, the concern I have is, you know, we do have a limited budget for training. So if we start adding multiple groups and every group costs, you know, roughly $2,000 to $4,000, we're going to burn through that budget rather quickly, rather than if we select the one that we think is is best qualified to do that
Yeah.
training for us. But part of what we're doing is we make the recommendations to the whole commission, and then the commission will vote on what they want to do, and then we'll move forward. But that was just one of the concerns that the cabinet had that they shared with me last Friday.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was just thinking that all of the training that we have, to me, would seem to be introductory. I mean, it's the beginning of our training, and we can always, if we want more training, if we want to learn more, each individual can reach out and go get as much training as they desire.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think we need the training that we need so that we can understand the job that we need to do.
Right.
And if one person feel that they have a grasp on what they need to do, get that training, and they feel they don't need any more, then they don't feel like they shouldn't have to have any more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my main point too, is that it's up to the individual how much they want to get out of this. Whether it's independent, watching the videos or whatever. There's so much material out there that one can, if you really want to learn about implicit bias, there's so much stuff out there.
And it's not just implicit bias. It's all the trainings I think that we're introducing our groups to. I think I look at them as introductory, and I think if an individual wants more, they can go get more.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and this I'm sorry, I'm just jumping in all the time.
Go ahead.
This would be interesting because of the group dynamics that we have right now. It would be interesting to see how people interact with each other as far as gender bias versus, any type of bias, implicit bias, not just reviewing the cases per se, but how we interact as a group, because that can also, what is the word I'm looking for? Cause conflict and sometimes tension. I felt it this last time when I was there.
Well, I think also it carries over to other aspects. It's not just, to your point, not just case review. Even our personal lives, it can carry over to other things.
Right, exactly. I mean, honestly, sometimes I feel like, well, I shouldn't personalize this. Never mind. It's just that I think that it's really good training for all of us. Oops, I just lost my microphone. It's really good training as a review, that sometimes we forget about really understanding another person's perspective, whether it doesn't always agree with our perspective. Am I making any sense here? It's anyway, never mind.
So what I'm thinking, and I just stopped sharing, but let me pull it back up. The one thing I'm thinking of doing, and I just typed it in there. Give me 1 second. There we go. So what I just added here is suggested pre-work. And I think the other thing that would probably be helpful is so we had, like, for the UCLA one, we had an approximate how much time. I think we can also put that in there so people can kind of know, okay, if I click on, the PBS thing, that's about a 10-minute commitment. And I think that might help people kind of realize, here's roughly how long these things are going to take. Because I don't think, I don't believe Chair Tran, I don't believe she's looked at any of these yet. So I think she just saw the topics. I don't think she's actually watched any of those videos.
Okay.
So I think she might possibly be thinking, hey, if we're asking people to watch, 3 or 4 hours of videos, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
and I can get clarity from her on that as well.
Okay.
But what I think we can do based on what we just talked about is, let's just say the videos, they're suggested pre-work. I think the implicit bias test, I think it's kind of important. Because
I agree. I agree.
I feel like if we have commissioners who have not taken that, and then they show up, they're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage because other people will have already kind of seen, hey, here's perhaps the implicit bias that I might have that I wasn't aware of. So I think I would say that we might want to say that's, it's optional, but highly, highly recommended.
Yeah,
that's my thought, at least.
Yeah, and don't take it when you're tired or in the middle of the night. My suggestion, yeah.
There we go. Okay, so I think we'll leave it at that. We can try to get some clarity from them on, you know, if they want to do other presenters, we can try to narrow down who we want it to be. I think, you know, the other curse is just trying to do scheduling. If we're going to have multiple people, you know, trying to get multiple agencies or groups to be with us, it's going to get harder to do. And then also there's the cost implications, but I can work with them on that. The other thing we wanted to try to go over was Sharon Farley is going to be in town, and we're still waiting to reconfirm her schedule the early part of September. I think it was September 5th and 6th she was going to be here. She's out of Chicago.
Right.
And she, we had actually spoken to her initially about implicit bias as well. But she had shared with us that one of the areas that she feels really strongly is one of her qualifications is the process of decision making, which we have that. It's in our case review doc.
That's
So
a good one.
we had, this is something that we were going to reach out to her and confirm that she's still available. Like I said, she was going to be in town. So the nice benefit is we would still have to cover her costs, and we need to get a proposal from her, but it would be cheaper because we would not have to be paying for the travel since she's already going to be here. So Darlan has actually already reached out to her. This was over the holiday weekend, so we haven't heard back yet. But we were just double checking to see if her schedule was still available for that. And if so, we're going to work with her to try to kind of formalize that and get some kind of a proposal, because in order to get her paid, we'd have to get a proposal and have that go through the city. That's the other step we're working on there. The other thing, just to give you guys an update, is I did also share both this, the case review training document and also the onboarding training document with our new executive director, Paul Parker. Now that he's obviously on board, I think, you know, he will probably want to take a look at it and either, you know, have some feedback or thoughts. You might want to consider some changes, things like that. So I sent that to him on Friday. Again, with the holiday, he's had it for all of 2 days. So I doubt he's really had a chance to dive into that. But I would anticipate maybe the next week or two, we might hear back from him on some either like, yeah, everything looks great, or here's a couple, you know, tweaks I'd like to make. So just want to share that with you guys. But those were the kind of the big agenda items I had for our call today. The big one, you know, is kind of if we're trying to get that meeting for late August, and I'm forgetting the actual date. We were going to try to do the implicit bias piece. Muslim ARC is not available for that day. They've already booked. And then the other piece of that was when we found out on Friday that the cabinet would like us to see if we can make it a little bit more broad and try to include other people. So we'd have to do that on a different date anyway. The other thing that we did do is we also reached out to, I think I have it on the all-day training. Maybe not. No, it was. Okay, so this one here, the Rebuilding Community and Government Trust, that's the exhaling injustice piece. So we were also reaching out to Tasha Williams, who's the one that leads that one, to see if she'd be available to do that, since we already have that day scheduled for all the commissioners on the calendar. I believe I think are still waiting to hear back. I haven't heard if she's confirmed if she's available or not. We're just trying to figure out what other kind of full day training can we substitute the kind of the implicit bias training with, since we already have that day. So that's kind of still a yet to be determined.
Okay, and this is in place of the other training, which I missed, I think, up above. There were two trainings, right?
Yeah, it's the implicit bias one.
Right. How about ARC? That one.
Yeah, Muslim ARC is not available on that day. So that's why we're trying to look to see who we could swap it with.
Okay.
And let me just look at the calendar real quick. It's Saturday, August 17th is that day.
Oh, wow. It's coming up.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is because it's coming up quickly, we need to get it scheduled as fast as possible so we can, you know, get the agendas out and we don't need the agenda until 3 days prior, but just so we can get the information out there and make sure everything's, you know, scheduled out properly. So, yeah. So the idea is now is for the 17th, we're trying to see if we can get Tasha Williams with Exhaling Injustice to do that. And I will follow up with Yasmin and see if we've heard back. She can't join us today. Unfortunately, she had a family member pass away. So, and I don't want to reach out to her today, obviously, because she's dealing with other things.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Dwayne.
I would say, we talking about the 17th, and you're speaking of the availability of Tasha, I know our foundation and Tasha's, well, like I said, she's part of our foundation. We have on the 17th, I didn't know this until later, but we have our community fun day at at a park, and it serves roughly about, I don't know, roughly about 1,000 or so people. And that's going to be August 17th.
Okay. But she's not
Yeah.
available.
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Excuse
well
me?
then,
Okay.
so then she will not be available on that day.
Well, I will, matter of fact, I will talk to her today
Okay.
to see, because I mean, what would be, and to her, make sure she gets in contact, because it obviously seems like she hasn't responded. I want to see, make sure that she responds so that she'll know, like, I don't know if it's what the time frame would be for her.
Yeah.
So
To,
she
to
would
be
know
honest,
her.
and I'm gonna make sure I'm not misspeaking. I have not heard that she's responded, but she may have already responded to Yasmin. I haven't heard if she is or is not available. But
I'll
yeah,
ask her.
if you can check in and see, and then I mean, if she hasn't, if she can reach out to Yasmin, that'd be great. But
I'll ask her. And
yeah,
and on top of that, like I said, I didn't know once I confirmed that I would be there on the 17th. I didn't know that then our organization met and they planned this date on the 17th.
got it.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to be there.
Okay. Well, I will share that information with the cabinet just so they know that so far it sounds like Tasha may have a conflict, and we may have to figure out a third plan. I mean, I guess for the decision-making thing, I mean, we could try to do it by Zoom.
I'll know tonight. I'll
Okay.
know tonight if she has already made contact.
Okay. Well, if you have a chance when we're off this Zoom, just send me a text and let me know. And then
Okay.
otherwise we can try to come up with a plan C. We'll figure something out. But those were the main topics I really had for today. Was kind of I wanted to share with you what the cabinet told me on Friday. And then going forward, I think the great piece is we will have Dennis on this meeting with us. I think because it's new, he just may not have had the calendar invite and he hasn't responded to my text yet. So I think we have some good information on, I will let the cabinet know for the first step on the implicit bias about the videos and what we want to do. We'll try to see a little bit more information on perhaps other options, but I think until we have a day, it's kind of hard to get all that booked down.
Can I before we leave, I want to throw a little curve in there in regards to a possible training, not a training. I was saying, I just think we should get some information so that we can find where this is being taught or talked about. It's very controversial, and a lot of people don't even like. They don't. They don't like it. But I think it's something that I've looked at, and I think people, if they want extra training, could look into it. But I think we should maybe provide information on where to go for it, and that's CRT.
That's great that you brought that up. It is controversial and that would be like an extra icing on the cake, but I really think it is pretty critical. Well, that's why it's called critical race theory, right?
And I think because there's a lot of good information in regards to it, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it. You know, people in the upward saying it's being taught in school, and so when it's really not being taught in school. It's you know, so I think it's something that we should be able to put the information out there to say, you know, this is available. This is another thing that's available. But everybody wants to that information for.
Yeah. It's interesting that you brought this up, Joanne, because I, as an adult woman, post, back, I had a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, never took a African American studies or history when I was in college or even high school. And as an adult woman, I actually went to City College. I took 2 semesters of African American history, and it was very eye-opening to me as being a Latina woman of color. And I never knew any of the historical things about African American history. And I took it with a really great professor, and made us write journals about it. So it was quite mind-opening for me, to tell you the truth. And I discussed this with my family members, and they're pretty much like, wow, we didn't know that. So I think it's very crucial if people want to educate themselves about about CRT. I know it's African American history is sort of on the sidelines, but is sort of related to it. But yeah, it's the book that I was thinking of reading lately was the 1619 Project.
Yeah.
That is more of a very compact view of the historical perspectives and etc. But anyway, I didn't want to go side, but I'm glad you brought that up, Dwayne.
I think what we can also do is, I think, and maybe doing this is kind of where you're going at it. I think we can have the commission can vote on what they want to approve as the training, and then we can even have additional learning topics and things like that if people want to do on their own. I mean, that's we do have kind of like our library of data and stories and articles that we've pulled from NACOL and things like that we put up on our shared drive for commissioners to be able to use. But yeah, we can put that down as a topic for us to discuss, and I'm sure there'll be robust public feedback on it. But yeah,
I actually had. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dwayne. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, Dwayne. No. I actually had a friend of mine. Yeah. I actually had a friend of mine that was got so emotional about it. Why are young children or school-age children learning about this? Why are you making them feel so guilty about past regressions and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's like, oh God, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. It's like, people have already made up their minds about CRT, but I think that it's a lot of misconceptions, like you're saying, about it. But anyway, but as you were going to say, I think somebody was going to say something before I interrupted.
No, I was done with my comment.
Anyway, this is iced tea, you guys.
And that's why I was,
this is iced tea. It's not wine.
Yeah, since it is so controversial, I think if it was just an additional training that somebody wanted to have, then we would gather information for them to. I'm not saying it'll be a training one that we talk about mandatory and bring somebody in.
Yeah.
just have that information for individuals that want to dive into.
Right.
Okay.
And I guess in California it is mandatory for, I don't know about high schoolers, but community college graduates to take 1 full semester. I believe it's 1 full semester of Asian studies or Chicano studies or African American studies. It's one of those 3. And I don't know about high school.
But that's
Yeah, I know. It's sort of, yeah, I know.
But that's different from CRT.
I know.
No.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I probably kind of watered it down too much, but it was quite mind-opening for me, to tell you the truth, Dwayne, because I grew up in an African American community in Illinois, in Joliet, which is like,
All right, cool.
Outside of Chicago. And I did grow up, most of my classmates were African American and Latino, and we never learned much about history of our own, Chicano and Hispanic, or Latino or Chicano, whatever you want to call us, and much less from African American. It was very mind blowing to me taking that history class. I just didn't know a lot. It's just the little small snippets that they teach you in high school history. and that's it, you know, and it's very watered down, you know, but I'm glad I did take that course.
No, I get it, but I'm saying, but even again, that's not what CRT is, though. It's not African American Studies, Chicago Studies, or any of that.
No, I understand that. I understand. Maybe I presented it as kind of too watered down, but I think it was critical for me to understand the past historical perspectives, you know, of the Black codes, all that stuff that we didn't learn, you know, in middle school, high school, you know. I mean, that is like a beginner. I mean, I know CRT is much more, you know, but anyway.
All right, so, sorry, Dwayne, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I said I was just saying, cool. No, I'm good.
So I think my marching orders, so to speak, I will reach back out to the cabinet, let them know what we talked about with the implicit bias chunk. We'll change the videos to pre-work, and then I'll just get time so we can put how much time commitment each of those pieces are. Dwayne, if you have a chance to hear back from Tasha, let me know if she might possibly be available, or if she's already reached out to any of our staff. I think it was Yasmin who I believe reached out to her. And if not, we'll figure out another option that will be available for the 17th.
Okay.
And I think that's it. All right, guys.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you had a great, safe holiday, and I will see you guys next week.
All right, great.
All right.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Good
Bye,
night.
guys.